All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the awakentohappinessnow, the Awakened Happiness Now Global Series. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And if you are watching live on YouTube or you're watching on the replay, please do like and subscribe for more videos and join us regularly. We do live shows Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays normally, but it can always change. So always check back, please. And I'm so excited because we get to share these wonderful speakers, teachers, healers who have all this wonderful wisdom, resources, tools, support to aid us in our growth, in our evolution, in our expansion of consciousness. And they have so much wisdom and teachings that I always learn something new every single time. So I hope you will join me more often. Please do join and subscribe. And let's get started with today's show. My good friend Irma Kaye Sawyer is back with us today, and we are going to be talking about, well, the cosmic weather updates. That's the first place where we always start, and then we always move into other more fun stuff as well. So the cosmic weather updates as of now, because there's so much happening, but we're going to talk about the recent shift of Saturn in Pisces. It's a 2.5-year transit and what it means for those having their first or second Saturn return and everyone else. We're going to talk about the shift of Pluto in Aquarius, which starts today, and how it will impact power and the people. We're also going to talk about the upcoming spring or fall eclipse season, what to expect and how to prepare. All that and more. We'll be taking live caller questions. So if you do have questions, you can type your question in the chat. Just know that because Irma does not have your information, birth date, etc., she is not going to be able to give personal information, but general questions, and she's very intuitive as well, are up for grabs, but nothing specific to your chart. Okay. So for those of you who don't know Irma, she's been on our show many times. We love having her here. We talk about astrology for sure, but we also talk about crystals a lot as well. So there's always some little bit that pops in around about crystals, and we all love crystals. I have so many. If you want some, come to my house and get some, because I have to start giving some away. But for those of you who don't know Irma, she is an author, a spiritual teacher, an intuitive counselor, an Akashic Records consultant, and energy healing practitioner. From Southern California, she's been in professional healing and consulting practice since 1992 and holds certifications in Reiki, magnified healing, shamanic healing, intuitive counseling, and Akashic record consulting. As a natural intuitive, she began giving readings at age 12. So Irma spontaneously began channeling the Archangelic Energy Collective in 1996, and her current guidance team, the Akashic Wisdom Keepers, in 2007. She's also the author of 6 books, and she has many courses that she offers on her website as well. Plus, she offers many services that you can also partake of. And she's, very intuitive, very spot on with astrology readings, etc., and Akashic record readings, everything. So I'm so glad that Irma is back with us. So please join me in welcoming Irma back to the show. Irma, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Hello, beautiful Laura. I love being on your show. It's been a minute, and I'm so glad to be back. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today or watching the replay later.
Exactly. I know it's been hectic for the past little while, right? We've all been going through a lot of stuff, right? To be honest, and I always think, okay, it's gonna settle down. It's gonna slow down. It's gonna get better, calmer. I have this fantasy in my head of things are gonna, slow down, and they don't. But so, we've all had lots going on in the past year, 2 years, 3 years, right? But now it's even more. I'm not gonna use the word crazy, but there's like even more going on. So I know we're going to start talking about that first, what's going on in the cosmic weather. But I mean, honestly, it's like I could use a little break. I forced myself to take a little break last week. So I did my shows, yes, but I put my out of office on for my emails, and it's like, I'll get back to you next week. And then this week I was going to do the same thing again, because just with everything going on, I needed some downtime. I needed some time for me, right, to go through some stuff, and it's all good now. So it's whatever. But we need that break sometimes, and we don't give ourselves. I don't give myself a break often enough, right? So I'm feeling too that we're being called to take that break for ourselves, right? We as a being of light, we are of spirit, yes, but our physical bodies and our mental bodies and our emotional bodies, they've all been through so much and they need a break, right?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. Joyce always brings up great stuff, of course. Very tapped in as well. Thank you so much. That's a great point. And I was saying this at my forecast at the beginning of the year. We're in a rabbit year, right? Year of the rabbit, and we're in a 7 vibration. And a 7 vibration, is a very highly spiritual vibration. It's a yin vibration. It's a lot softer. And I've had people go, oh, when are we going to get a break from the weather? And it's like, it's not up to the weather to configure, the way we want it to be. It's up to us. And I'm definitely taking more time off. I did a little mini break last week, ran out to Sedona for a couple of days. I had a friend visiting and I went, oh, great. An excuse to go out to Sedona. I think I'll go do that. So this is what I feel like there's like a wonderful synchronicity that goes along with this in a 7-year also, right? Because like that thing, like, oh, I need a little break. And then boom, here's this beautiful opening to see someone I hadn't seen in 9 years. And it was this wonderful time. And it was very quick and I had to come right back, but it was very nourishing to be there. So I'm glad you're taking some time. That's really, really important. This is really going to sustain us. You can have me on again next year. 2024 is an 8 and a dragon year. This is going to be one of the most potent years of our life. Like really, it's very, very big next year. So I feel like what we're doing while we're being called to go more in, be inward, take time off, do whatever you need to restore and rest. When I saw that this year was a 7, I was really happy and excited because we need this. We absolutely need this. Last couple of years, yes, very intense for whatever people are going through in their personal lives. So yeah, do it. Do it. Take the time. And another thing I found too is like, we're people that are doing the light work that are in service. For example, I've done some teachings on this. It's like there's heightened synchronicity in a 7-year, right? Because it's a highly spiritualized year. So for example, I went, how am I going to get my butt to Sedona financially? Boom, just had all the stuff show up. I put it out there to the universe. Like I really would need this. I really want to do this. And I had some things show up and I was able to do it. And I think that's a good example, and that's also a little wink from the universe going, yeah, we heard you. We know that the universe, of course, is always going to support us being loving and nurturing towards ourselves. So that, that's a great point. I think it's a really good place to start too. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So take care of you, especially if you are taking care of others or if you're doing service work. You can't do as good of service work or caring for others if you don't take care of yourself first. We all know this, but we don't follow it.
That's so true. And you really, I've written about this too. There's a difference between being a little tired and a little burned out to getting into like burnout mode. And what I call burnout mode, when you're in burnout mode, you're at a deficit and you have to bring it back up just to get like at your ordinary level. The whole point is to completely avoid that. I mean, of course, we're going to go up and down in our energy and the uptake and so forth. But, really one of the keys of this year going forward for the rest of this year is to really avoid burnout. Listen to what your body needs. Listen to what your consciousness and your emotional body need. And, for the most part, do that as you can. So, yeah, good point.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I want to talk about the shift of Saturn in Pisces. So I'm so clueless, I have to admit. I'm like so terribly clueless when it comes to astrology. Even when somebody tells me, they're telling me to my face right there, and I'm like, not getting it. It does not go in. So what does that mean that Saturn is in Pisces for the next 2.5 years? What does that mean for us who, I don't even know what a Saturn return means, to be honest. You talk about Saturn return. What is Saturn return? I know about, I don't know. I mean, I know solar return, but I don't know what Saturn return is.
That's a good point. A solar return means the sun goes back to the point it was when you were born. A Saturn return, it's the same thing. Saturn returns to the same point that it was when you were born. So for example, what's really interesting? I'm having my Saturn return this week. And because I have Saturn at the 2nd degree. So everybody in my age group, the 58, 59 age group, is in their second Saturn return. Everybody in the 27 to 29 approximately age group is having their first Saturn return. So what does that mean? A lot, there's a lot of fear associated with it. And I don't really think it's fair. I mean, the first one I can see, because astrologically, you're not considered an adult until you have your first Saturn return. And this is approximately, like I said, 27, 28. And we all know how different, looking back, we can look back and see how different we are from like age 21 or 22 to 27 or 28. It could be like another lifetime just in those years. I know that it was for me. I changed my career. Like, I made huge changes. And this is a thing too, where, it's kind of ill-advised to get married, perhaps right on your Saturn return. There's certain things about waiting, and this is when people also, they change their career, they start a career, they might have a child. So that's really kind of, you're stepping your foot out on your path as an adult in your first Saturn return. Your second is very much about wisdom, coming into your crondom, your sage energy. This is about giving back, telling your story, what you've learned, giving back to the younglings. I have some people in my life that are in their first Saturn return, and it's very interesting, to be hanging out with folks that are literally 29 years younger than me, and finding a place to intersect and connect and have some great conversations. So that's what a Saturn return is. And so it brings Saturn again, he's the taskmaster. He has to do with karma. People tend to get kind of freaked out about it. I think that he kind of, has a bad rap in some areas. I mean, he basically is kind of the sit down and shut up and do your work. I mean, it's a serious aspect. It's not super, it's not a party and fun and lively and all that. But the great thing about it is Saturn really has our best interests at heart. Because this is our soul we're talking about. This is soul evolution, right? Which is going to benefit us down the road. So this is one of those things, it's almost like eclipse. This is similar to eclipse energy I'll talk about in a minute, where when you're in it, a lot of times you can't really see the higher purpose, especially if you're going through something difficult, right? Or something traumatic. You're just trying to get through it. But then when you look back on that period, you go, wow, there was I look back at my Saturn return, and what's interesting about it is it really set the pace. Here's a good example. I quit my corporate job and got into holistic healing and never went back, other than a couple little temp jobs or little things here and there. But as far as having a on the clock corporate job, I quit, and I was unhappy there. And I've made jokes that I have some stuff in my chart that not only was I miserable, I was kind of making everybody else miserable. It was just a bad fit.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
because when we're miserable, we're definitely gonna, make everybody else around us miserable too, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I have some aspects of my chart that very much are about me being an entrepreneur and kind of doing my own thing and being my own boss. And I didn't particularly like having a boss. I was lucky I had some good bosses, but I had some really not good bosses too. And that, that was one of those things where it was scary. I mean, I left a lucrative job for the unknown. And this is a good example of something that might come up in a Saturn return, whether it be a relationship that's not, it's not nurturing, it's not helping or feeding you in any way. It's become toxic or dysfunctional, a job, a living situation. So Saturn could kind of force the hand of making, an adult decision. Whatever that may be, something where you have to have a long talk with yourself and go, is this really for my best interest? So being a Capricorn and having it be my ruling planet, I'm a little more familiar and comfortable with that planetary energy. So it doesn't freak me out as much, but I could see why people are a little about it. I know there's some questions in the chat. Maybe later we can look at some of those.
So I was just going to ask you really quickly. So a Saturn return is usually around 28, 29, and then the second one around 57, 58, 59. Is that right? Something like around that?
Yes. Someone had a question. Can I comment on the third and fourth Saturn return? You have your third Saturn return when you're in your late 80s. Your fourth Saturn return, you would be 100 and something years old. Years young. I don't know anybody that I've never talked to anybody that's had their fourth Saturn return. I have talked to some people that have had their third. And an interesting thing about the third is it is similar to the second in that you are to share your wisdom, because my goodness, your late 80s, if you live to be your late 80s, you've seen a lot of stuff. You've seen a lot of changes. And that really, though, the focus of the third is very much about cosmic consciousness. It's very much about, especially Pisces, which rules cosmic consciousness. So if you're still alive and you're 88 or 89 years old, you're prepping to go to the great samadhi, in most cases, shall we say, right? So, and, there's a lot of questions popping up, but maybe we could, address those as they come up. But yeah, so if you're 27 to 29, it depends on your own individual chart. So everybody that has Saturn in Pisces is either having their first, second, or third, or fourth, if they're extremely old, Saturn return between now and what would that be? 2024. Wait, so I'm sorry. No, it's 2025 into 2025. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that was like, okay, I'm trying to calculate. I'm 56 now. So it's like, okay, I should be in my second Saturn return in the next year or two.
Well, I have to see your chart because if you don't have Saturn in Pisces, then you won't be in the next one is Aries that follows Pisces. So people that are your age, I have to see your chart, but wherever Saturn is, and if that's in your chart, and the way you pinpoint it is, for example, my Saturn is at 2 degrees of Pisces. So people are saying, is it based on age? It's generally yes. And it's based on your chart. So you could pinpoint the date. Like I said, for example, I just did one of these readings, Saturn return reading. The person had 14, their Saturn at 14 Pisces, and that wasn't until April of next year. So that's actually when it is. To clarify though, you're kind of soaking in it the whole time, because when it goes into the sign, it's still affecting your Saturn. But that means the actual return is when it's within right on yours or within 10 degrees. Just to clarify that. So say, for example, mine's at 2, and then when Saturn's at 25, that's quite a few degrees away from mine. So I hope that clarifies that a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I was just thinking about, I know in the next couple of years, there's lots of life changes happening. In the next year or 2, 3 years, there's a lot of life changes happening. So it's like, oh yes, makes sense. Because I'm going to be going into my second Saturn return. It's like, okay, that makes sense. Because I know what's happening. So, and then other stuff that may happen. So it's like, okay, interesting.
I have another thing that I could comment on when we talk about Pluto. I think your changes personally, just my head on it, I think Pluto and Aquarius is very much related to you and your work. And I think so. You have Aquarius planets, right? Well, I don't know. I'll have to look at your chart. Even if you don't, it's based on the nature of you and who you are and the space that you hold, that Pluto and Aquarius will definitely affect you.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Yeah. Just so let's talk about Pluto in Aquarius. And, so because we had somebody on yesterday, Emily, and she was also talking about astrology as well, right? A little bit. But the Pluto that's in Aquarius starting today is going to be around for the next 20 years, affecting us for the next 20 years, right?
That's correct, until 2043. Yes. Yeah. It's a big deal. It's been in Capricorn for 16 years. And it started in 2008. And I think it's very interesting that right on the tail end of Pluto and Capricorn, we had a nice banking crisis here in California, especially. In 2008, we had another banking crisis at the beginning of Pluto and Capricorn, because Pluto, it rules banking. That's one of the things it rules. So it goes in there and it's like, look, this is what's dysfunctional. You guys might want to pay attention to this. And then on the way out, it's like, hello. So it's on the other end of that. I had to just laugh and go, really? Like sometimes it's so on point, like you can't make it up. Like you really can't even make it up. So that's what's going on. So let's talk a little bit about, the upside and maybe the shadowy side of Pluto and Aquarius. Well, basically I'm always about kind of crystallizing or distillating things down to more easier to understand terms. That's something that I'm kind of known for. Because believe me, I understand. It's like when I was learning it, it looked like Greek to me too. I mean, or some foreign language. I get it. Pluto is power. It's transformational power. in evolutionary astrology, the system that I am trained in, it has to do with the soul. So the Pluto placement in the chart of an individual, for example, is very, very important. But also it has to do with the world soul, because right. So and Aquarius is about people. So I've been using the title of the great Patti Smith song, which is called Power to the People, because that's what Pluto and Aquarius is. It is power returning to the people. The question is, what are the people going to do with it?
Yeah.
Are they going to fritter it away? Are they going to just play more video games, or which is the, AI and technology addiction is the shadow of Pluto and Aquarius, right? There's a lot of people that are just like stuck in their little phone world or whatever. And I've had to watch it. I spend too much time online doing my business. I've had to be aware of that. And that's another thing, just to tie into what we first started talking about. Getting unplugged is essential for restoration with Saturn in Pisces. Pluto and Aquarius might be, woo, this is fun technology. Whereas the Pisces is like, I want to just hang out and like look at this ocean right now. Or I just want to go walk in the forest with my dog right now. I don't want to talk to people. I just want to chill. I want to chill. So those two energies, even though Pisces and Aquarius are next to each other in the zodiac, and they don't necessarily, they get along okay. They don't have they're not in a square pattern or any kind of conflicted pattern. But when it comes to this, though, they're very different, because Aquarius is very social and it rules technology and all of that. So see, this is a beautiful use of Pluto and Aquarius. Let's get people together all around the world on Zoom, where we otherwise couldn't have done that before. And that's what I love about the technology. But again, your people are going to have to be really mindful about technology burnout, which is absolutely real, right?
Yeah,
and
of course. Yeah.
Yeah, screen time is very much a big deal. So what were we saying about, so the shadow, and also Aquarius has an ability to be detached to a place where it can lack compassion. There's one thing to be detached in a loving spiritual way, which is the high octave of Pisces. But there's also this aspect of Aquarius that can be kind of like, not my problem. And that's really, we're all in it, right? I mean, on the planet, there's just one planet. There's no planet B, as the saying goes. So for us to be just like, oh, it's not my problem, that's another shadow aspect that doesn't really work with where we're going. So what are some of the upsides of that? I wrote this down. So yeah, it definitely would be community. It would be equality, working towards equality of all social groups and economic groups, working for, a more kind of equal or egalitarian view. Even though there's this other, we all know there's this weird kind of negative view that's kind of very much polar opposite of that. But again, have to remember, it's about the people and the collective. And there's a lot of people, right? There's a lot of light workers on the planet right now. We know that. So this is another little bit of advice for the next 20 years is until 2043 is to be realistic, but to keep it positive. I mean, I think we don't want to get into the shadow of Pisces, which is like, la, 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 it's all good. And, rose colored glasses. It's like, there's some things that need to be called out that clearly are not good or negative. But at the same time, I've already seen this, online with people really going deep in, like this negativity. We have to remember that we're creating it together. We're dreaming the new dream together, as our shamanic friends would say. So that's really kind of what I would say about, about Pluto and Aquarius, is just remember your power. And it also starts with self-sovereignty. I've been doing a lot of work in I do monthly healing groups, and we've been doing a lot of work with clearing impediments to sovereignty, whether it be shame or guilt or or we need to offer more forgiveness towards others or self. These are just some of the examples. So that's some of the things we're going to be working on. But group work is awesome. Group work is going to be where it's at, whether you get together, real world, like whether it's a drumming circle, a meditation group, like connecting with people on the physical plane, which is something that, we haven't really been doing a lot of. We're getting back to that now. So I think it's going to be, both are important, Zoom meetings for people all around the world, and then also meeting with people in your community.
Sounds good. Yep.
Yeah.
Power to the people. Absolutely. All
Yeah.
right. So what about the equinoxes coming up? I mean, eclipses. Sorry.
Yeah, we just had the equinox. Happy
Just had
belated equinox, everybody. I just want to make sure I shared everything about that. Eclipses, these are big, very big. The first one is on April 20th, and it's going to be in this. It's interesting. The last part of the sun is going to be at the 29th degree, which is called an anaretic degree, which is considered critical. It's a critical point. It's the 29th is the last degree before it goes into something. There's 30, and then it goes back to 0. So, for example, we're at 0 degrees, 0, Pluto in Aquarius today, which I think being on this show is extremely auspicious in a lot of ways. I'm really honored. And when I looked at that, I went, it's today. Wow. So we are literally at 0 degrees, 0 minutes, Pluto in Aquarius in this show. So we are stepping into this is a paradigm shifter. You know, Pluto is a paradigm oriented planet. But back to this. So it's the solar new moon is going to be at 29 Aries. Again, it's the critical degree. And when I sat with this a little bit, I've written quite a bit about this over the years. Light workers, empathic types have had issues about embodiment. They may even have guilt and shame about being embodied. They may have shame about, the not good enough stuff, depending on their chart. I know my generation, Pluto and Virgo, this is one of the wounding things that we've had to work through is it's actually okay to take up space. It's actually okay to exist. Some people, unfortunately, through dysfunctional family situations or systems might have heard that they're not worthy to be here, which is very sad. And we see that. So what this is saying is Aries is about, hey, I'm loud and I'm proud. I'm here. I'm glad to be here. It's the I am here. And then of course we all know that the I am statements are so powerful. I am love. I am abundance. I am perfect health, whatever they are. So you can see when you have the solar eclipse, it energizes. It's like a supercharging the new moon. So it's a new cycle with a big old dose of supercharging, right? So here we have coming off this sea change of Saturn in Pisces and Pluto in Aquarius, which are very big in and of themselves. So then we step into eclipse season just a little bit later, right? In April and May. So the solar eclipse is April 20th and the lunar eclipse is on the 5/5. It's on May 5th. Okay. And so that people have heard me joke about people in Scorpio energy, how I say that I call it amateur hour because some people just don't do that well with that energy because it's very potent, right? It's ruled by Pluto. It's transformational energy. So a full moon in Scorpio, are people going to always be in the high octave of it? No, they're not. That doesn't mean that we can't be though. So this is a very sensitive portal to do your own work, to maybe do work with your small community, to do work with Alara, to do that type of work, to be very mindful of who you're spending your time with and what they're bringing to the table. Because again, it's a very, very sensitive portal. So what does this mean? We're going to start out with the I am. It's great to be here. It's great to be here. Thanks. Really kind of stepping more into your embodiment and your mission. Okay, that's what that's going to be about. And then when you get into the full moon in Scorpio, again, it's a very misunderstood energy. I mean, there's some people that attribute, dark or weird aspects to it. I mean, yes, that exists, but Scorpio is the sign of the wizard, of the high priest and the high priestess, of the seer. It's very powerful energy. So what does that mean? We go within and we find our own wizard, wizardess, priestess, seer, whatever you want, healer. So this is a very powerful time to do healing work, that entire portal from April 20th and through May 5th. And also the effects of eclipses last longer than the actual eclipse. We know this. They can last for days, weeks, months, even years. Right? Yep. Especially this one, when this one is so big. And I really feel that somehow this eclipse portal ties into what we're going to be experiencing in 2024 with this dragon energy and this 8 energy, which is very much about manifestation and power. So this is very much going to be a time to seed what do we want to look at next year? What do we want to seed for next year? Let's put a little seed in that, in the ground at that new moon, in that whole portal. It's going to be really ripe for that. So that's one of the exercises to do. This is very interesting. I decided to look up what's called the Sabian symbols, and I'll explain those again. An amazing seer named Elsie Wheeler, many years ago, I think it's been 50, 60, 70 years ago now, she brought through a sign or a symbol for every degree of every sign. There's 30 degrees. So that's hundreds.
That's a lot.
I haven't done the math, but it's a lot. So I find these to be so spot on. I hope one day when I'm on the etheric plane, I can find her and give her a hug, because I love this woman so much. I love her work. It's so amazing. So I looked up the points, and there's symbol systems that are other ones. This is the one, it's called Sabian, and this is the one that I resonate with. Of course, there's others. So the symbol for the new moon is the music of the spheres. And this is very interesting, because the music of the spheres are normally associated with Pisces and the 12th house. So here's that influence of Saturn and Pisces kind of giving a little kiss to that new moon, right? And what it is, when you look at the key points, according to astrologer Dane Rudyard, another person I love who is an expert in Sabian symbols, he said this particular symbol is attunement to the cosmic order and listening to the inner voice. These are the keywords of that new moon. So how on the money is that? I still get the chills every time I talk about that. I was like, woo, when I first looked that up. Okay. And we could talk about stuff I have going on, but I am doing an event for that. I'm starting to do some more of my astrological meetups. So we're going to have one on April 20th for that. So that's the new moon. Dig the full moon. Alignment at work, installing new connections, as in a telephone lineman, right? So what this means is this is new communication channels. So what I got is that this pair of eclipses are so important to furthering the light or spiritual agenda on the planet and turning the volume down on the negative one.
Yeah.
Right? Because we know it's traveling there too, but we're just going to stay in our lane and turn up the volume. And not only are we turning up the volume, we're actually establishing new connections at that full moon. So that's going to be an amazing moon to get together with your like and like-minded brothers and sisters and do some work, do some really powerful envisioning work, right? Because we're literally establishing new connections. This is exciting, y'all, right? I looked at that and I went, what? Both of those are so powerful. They're two of the music of the spheres is a really beautiful one too.
Yeah.
So isn't that cool? That's really cool.
Looks like a powerful time coming up.
Big time. Very much. And also
a time to plant seeds, like you were saying, right?
Yes.
So what do you want to create? What do you want to experience? What do you want to call forward?
Yes, absolutely. And and what's great about it too is that this is a really good opportunity to release anything that's blocking that, anything, whether it be physical, emotional, on an abundance level, on a happiness level, whatever it is. So there's that window. And keep in mind too that these are just like the PowerPoints themselves, April 20th and May 5th, but that's going to be in orb all the way until the fall, until the next pair of eclipses come along. And maybe we could talk about those. But this, I haven't even looked at. People are always like, oh, what do those look like? I'm like, I'm just looking at these right now. I tend to just look out at, the next few months and what we're kind of soaking in. But this is exciting. I mean, this is a really beautiful time. And also, again, to have it in a 7 rabbit year, yin year. So what does that mean, right? That's receptive, right? When you think about the soil in spring and being more receptive. So that's another thing. Be more in attune. What are some of the beings or deities that you could work with? I know, Alara, you work with Kuan Yin, and you work with Mary and Divine Mother. These are going to be some wonderful, energies and entities to work with, in this portal. Okay.
Got it. Awesome.
Yeah.
And, and I have to say, it's like, yes, when we're setting our intentions, planting our seeds for what we want to create, what we want to experience, but it's also what are you willing to receive? Like we just talked about receiving. What are you willing to receive? And also, what are you willing to take action on? And it's not just up to the universe to create for
Yes.
you.
Yes.
It's also
Good
us.
point. Good point. And especially that new moon, especially it being in Aries season. Aries is absolutely about action. It's yang energy. It's about moving. It is actually doing something, right? So that's a great point. You plant the seed and actually be willing to move on it, actually do something to that end.
Yeah, 'cause I just find that in these shows and these calls, people just talk about intentions and receiving and the universe doing everything. It's like the universe is not going to do anything if you're also not going to be a party to the creation. So we're co-creating with the universe. I was going to say the universe is not going to do jack shit if you're not doing anything, but it's like, okay, now let me tone that down.
That feels like something I'd say in one of my meetings. Tell it like it is, baby.
Well, you have to have both, right? There's the balance, right, of the receiving from the universe and also us creating, doing as well. So, we want to be co-creating together, not just, hey, universe, do this for me, because that does not work.
That's so true. And you know how it ties into this? It's great because when you start out with it's a yin energy as we start it, but then like it's yang. It's like the new moon is like, let's get it done. Let's get going. The full moon is the culmination, and it's like the cosmic womb, and it's yin energy, right? So both of those things are vitally important, right? This is how we see the yin and the yang play out cosmically everywhere. So that's right. You do. Yes, there's sometimes to just sit and receive, and there's other times to get up off your butt and get moving, right? And a new moon with a solar eclipse, the way I describe it is it's the universe putting a fire under your butt, literally, right? Because it's like, oh, there you go. So because solar, it is fire. It's fire energy. So that's a great point. Thank you for that.
Anytime. I'm a doer, so I, for one, need to find more balance in the receiving part, and the, creating with the universe part, so I there's a balance, right? So it's about both the yin and the yang, not just yang all the way, and not just yin all the way. So find that balance, what works for you.
That's right. And I think, well, for me, it's been interesting because in my personal journey, I have an Aries moon. I have a lot of masculine energy. in my own healing process, I had to learn that it was safe to be in my feminine energy again. That was part of my own journey. I know there's a lot of women on this call that, maybe some men too, that can identify with that there's, getting that safety again. Right. So some people's journey, might be the opposite, that maybe they've been entirely yin. They haven't stepped out. They've been letting everybody handle everything else. I mean, you see this with people, especially maybe in neglectful childhood or abandonment, or maybe they just had to quote, grow up fast, or whatever the situation is. Right. A lot of empaths and light workers have had to kind of fend for ourselves. That has been in our background. And see, this is another thing that ties into Saturn return. For me, on the second one, it's been really amazing. Just to share a little personal note, is my journey has always been about not only sharing my story, because that's healing for me, and that's what some of that is in my books, but also when I got the feedback from people, globally. That's what's really incredible about being an author, is having people all over the planet be able to read your story, and people writing me and go, oh, I don't feel like I'm alone. I don't feel like I'm nuts, or, thank you for sharing that. Right. So it really, I feel like for me, it's been sharing my story, but being less attached to it. Right. Because I'm not my story. On a higher level. I mean, yes, Irma Kaye Sawyer has karma and an ego and a family and all this stuff. But a lot of that story, is the source. And see, I have Saturn in the 4th house. And to explain what that is, that's your family and your childhood. That means my greatest lessons came from there. And that's very, very true. So, and there was a lot of pain and heartache and suffering there. And so part of my journey has been transforming and transmuting that, and stepping out more into that Aries that I am. Who am I without my story? Well, I'm a lot without my story. And so is everybody on this call. So this is one way, even if you're not having a Saturn return, the higher aspect, the higher manifestation of Pisces energy is to transcend your story, is to take the value from it, take the gold from it, and share it. Again, if you're in that second Saturn return, you now are stepping into your sage wisdom, your crone wisdom, and your community needs you. You know, like I said, I have the younglings that are in my life, and you know, they're really interested in some of the things that I've experienced, and I feel like in some ways it's helping them. So it's not a thing about shutting it down and not talking about it. It's a thing about not being as identified with it. So I just thought I'd share that part, because that's an important part of Saturn and Pisces is transcendence.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. You know, it is about not being identified with the story. And so many of us, we get caught up in that, or we have the fear of that. I remember a long time ago when I wanted to write something, somebody said to me, oh, no, you can't write about it, because then it's, I don't know, she judged me in some way. And so then I never did. Then I always felt like, oh, I shouldn't write about anything, because it makes it all about me and not about serving everybody else, you know? And it's like, it really left and so, you know, I haven't written anything, you know, all these years, because that one thought, that one thing that one person said stuck, about being identified with that story, and an ego thing, you know. And it's like, and you know, maybe when I was young, 30-ish, maybe that was the case, but you know, I definitely don't think so now, right? So how can you transcend your story so that you can really be, you know, be more of who you came here to be, right? And not get stuck in the story of what has happened. You know, like I'm not me because of what happened, because of the story. I'm me because of who I am.
That's
Does
right.
that make
And
sense?
also how you responded to the story.
Yeah.
There's that
exactly.
too. There's that too. You're here being a shining light and holding space, being a teacher and a healer in your own right. That's really interesting about how somebody could plant a little seed that's not positive. But I think that maybe that's on tap for your Saturn return in a couple of years, Alara, because it's, you know, you have a lot of valuable information to share. Now, I remember saying sometime, you know, when there's this thing, a lot of writers go through this, where you go, oh, well, you know, nobody wants to hear this, or this is the same old, but nobody's story is like yours. And I remember I had somebody say that to me, you know, and I remember, and even my own guides, even the keeper said that to me. They said, it's your story. It is your unique story. Nobody has that story but you. And see, that's that inner critic. A lot of writers can relate to this, that critic going, oh, well, why would anybody want to read this? Or this is, you know, worthless or whatever. And it's like, you know, I joke and say I give that part of my consciousness, I give her a cocktail and put her in the sunroom. People have heard me say that before. Thanks for your input, but I'm going to do this over here. Exactly. So that's one of those things where you're like, okay, does that resonate as being truth or useful, or, you know? And I think that's another thing too, is something the keepers had said, and other people, this is echoed other people's, but about minimizing the inner voices that are less than love. Yeah. So that's not a loving you know, it's not a loving thought, is that, you know, to not tell your story. And you know what, even I think what it is it's a roadmap. This is the Saturn return too, when your life becomes a roadmap for others, a guide for others. That's really powerful. really powerful. Or, you know, I have some people in my life that have transcended and overcome very serious life-threatening illnesses. And again, have there been books about this? Yes, but other people wrote them. You know, I'm actually really excited to read these. So that's an example. And see, that's a plutonic event. A plutonic event is a health crisis, death of a family member, you know, uprooting your life, going to, you know, another part of the country or world or whatever it is. These are things that really do change you. And what's the saying? It's an opportunity to become better or bitter, right? There's that saying. Yeah. Yeah. Right. No bitterness. Yeah. Just better. Yeah. And I mean, you might go through a period where you feel angry or bitter, and that's part of it. I mean, I certainly did, and no judgment for that. But the key is, you know, you don't stay there. You keep on moving. And that's the key to a Pluto. And I mean, also when you have returns, you can also have a Pluto return. You can have Pluto transits. All these planets, right, are moving in your own individual blueprint. And
Yeah.
when I had a Pluto return, it was rough. I went through
Mhm.
some very rough stuff. But that's one of those things, hindsight being 2020. I'm grateful for the experience. It really burned off some junk,
Mhm. Yeah.
that needed to not be there. It didn't serve me. And it clearly was a past life pattern. In my life, I could clearly see that I had a belief and a view. The Buddhists talk about your view, and my students have heard me talk about it too. Your view is very much affected by your karma, your karmic view. How do you shift
Mhm.
that?
Mhm.
Well, as you change your consciousness, as you grow and evolve, your view also changes.
Yeah,
And
for
that's the
sure.
work that's the work that you do also,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
great. So
absolutely. And
deep
that's the
out.
thing is that's why it's important not to get hung up on the story, right?
Yes.
You don't want to identify with the story. You don't want to get hung up on the story. We've all had experiences, different range of experiences, some hell, some great, and
Yeah.
all the way in between, right? So it is about how you move through those experiences and what wisdom you keep, what awarenesses you have, what wisdom you keep, and exactly. I'm grateful for all the experiences, as bad as they were. Some of them, so I'm grateful because they really showed me a little bit more about people and also myself.
And
Right.
not, like I said, you being the lovely Pisces that you are, the embodied, with the high octave of that too, right? It's compassion. I
Yeah.
have greater compassion. For example, I've had a lot of loss in my life. I've lost a lot of precious beings out of my life, especially in the last 3 years, that literally not on the physical plane anymore. So I have a deeper resonance and compassion for people that have lost loved ones, because that's been part of my own personal journey. And see, that's in my chart too. That's one of the things that that I'm here to experience. And, that's the thing too, that it's been, there's blessings in that. As hard as it's been, there's been amazing blessings in that. Another thing, this ties into what I just thought of this. Saturn, the 12th house is cosmic consciousness. It's things that are invisible, right? It's all of the great, the cosmic sea, right? Like, and it's the unknowable. I predicted that society, and also Casey did too, that society was going to get a lot more psychic when Neptune was in Pisces, where it is right now. I feel like now we'll have a Saturn Neptune conjunction for the next 2.5 years. So I feel like this is another fun thing. I get this all the time. Oh, I'm not psychic. I don't have any medium ability, but I had a long conversation with my departed loved one the other day, and I absolutely believe him. I do. Why would I not anyway? And secondly, this is what's available to us now, right? Talk about the veil being thinner. I think over the next 2.5 years, this is going to be a great time if people are interested in learning more about spirituality, whether it be for my classes, your classes, anyone else that they're attracted to, whether it be astrology, mediumship, healing. This is going to be on fire. This is the time. And also people that maybe have a toe in, they have some ability, they're a little bit curious. This is the other thing I was really shown, is that healers, we know how needed we are. We know that we're needed. And there's a whole other generation of folks coming up, millennial generation, the Gen Z generation, that are here in training to support humanity. So it is an intense portal, but it's a really cool portal, and it's really exciting too. So, yeah.
So there's so many different, so many different possibilities that are opening up because of this, of Pluto coming in now, the Pluto and Aquarius coming in now, but also the Saturn and Pisces, just everything that's coming up now. If you're willing to look for the possibilities and the opportunities, they're there. And at the same time, it's about trusting your intuition, trusting your gut, trusting your knowing, and following that. Right. So if for example, and this is for, everybody who's listening now or later, if, for example, you've always felt like, oh, I wish I could, meditate more, then, do it now. This is the time.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And like anything like that, or any interest. Oh, I wish I could paint. Take a painting class.
Yes.
Right? Whatever happens to be. just do it, because that's going to start shifting your reality, the outer reality, but it's also going to start shifting your inner reality. So when we get these little whispers of, oh, you know what, I really wish I had time for this. This would be so much fun. Make the time. Take the time.
Another little wonderful cosmic connection. You do that all the time. Another beautiful thing is, like, say you always wanted to paint, like, is a great example. Or say you want to go back to taking a dance class or whatever, some kind of artistic expression. I remember I read something and it initially made me sad. It said that there are so many creative people that are not expressing it because they're in the capitalism loop. Everybody's just trying to live. So the thing is, though, the more you do something out of joy and not out of duty, right? We know this. Out of what uplifts you and you know, enthusiasm, the word means to be filled with spirit. I love that. Whatever makes you be filled with spirit, and you do more of that, as the keepers would say, it makes the road wider. And this is the other thing too, because I've said this before, people have made money in recessions, in depression, right? I mean, yes, is it a challenge? Of course it is. Does that mean that you can't be successful? No. Absolutely not. It means you have to level up your game. You have to get smarter. What is it? Work smarter, not harder, as the saying goes, and be in the flow. And you know how you be in the flow is you do what you love. Even if it's 10 minutes a day or however you could fit it in. But that's a great point. And I would really, really encourage that, because Pisces rules the arts, especially music. Music. So I'm a person that really loves music. I like to go hear live music. That's one way that I fill myself up. If you play an instrument, that's great. You know, if you want to learn an instrument, now's a great time. So that's a really good point, Laura, that it's about what's filling us up and giving us joy, making us happy. Yeah.
I didn't want to focus just on the spiritual side, right? I wanted to bring in, you know, all aspects of our lives, right? So whatever that happens to be, whatever you feel joy in, start doing more of that, take lessons in it, and just immerse yourself, right? And it changes everything. And that's, people miss that part. Like, if I'm stressed out about business, right? For example, I'm going to be like, focus on business, but I'm missing out on what brings me joy. And when there's no joy in, you know, in my life, how can I possibly do, you know, focus on my business as much as I would like, or as effectively as I would like, right?
Right.
So, but when there's that joyness, it brings that joy energy comes into every aspect of your life, not just, oh, I like to paint, and so I feel joyful when I'm painting. No, that joy comes into every area of your life, and that uplifts you and raises your vibration and raises the vibration of everything that you do.
Absolutely. It's beautiful. And again, it's going to be about the group. It's going to affect the group, the collective. You're going to raise yourself up. It's going to it's going to widen the road. It's going to create more space for other people to be in a happier, more joyous vibration, because that is absolutely the antidote to all of the garbage and the nonsense is joy.
Yeah.
Is happiness, joy, love, peace, all of those considered, the Buddhists call them the positive emotions, right? The beneficial emotions. This is really the soul medicine that I talk about in some of my own work, that's what's needed in intense times. We need soul medicine.
Even
we
more
need
so.
it. We need more of it. We need more of it.
So I'm just gonna make a request. All those of you who are here now with us live, if you can just type in the chat, just really quickly, what brings you joy? And please, nobody say, I don't know, because you know. What brings you joy? So there's many things, right? So just type in the chat for yourself, what brings you joy? So I know for myself, painting definitely brings me joy. As well, playing with the boys brings me so much joy, right? But just find one thing, okay? And there's a reason for that. I just wanted to emphasize the fact that joy is available everywhere.
Everywhere. That's beautiful. That's a great exercise. While you're doing that, do you want to go ahead and look in, see if there's some questions there to some people were asking questions.
Yeah, so we have 2 people with their hands raised, and there's some questions in the chat for sure about stuff. stuff, which I'm like already like, I have no idea. What does Saturn opposition mean as compared to Saturn return?
Well, I don't know what it's opposed. Opposing just means it's opposite.
Yeah.
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 So if you have a Saturn opposition that, say it's Saturn opposed Sun, that's going to, an opposition creates friction, but again, it produces amazing growth. A good example, I picked Sun for a reason. There's some amazing artists and songwriters I know that have a Saturn Sun opposition, and it's not considered fun. But in this case, it's been highly creative, and it produced amazing works of art out of it. Right. But it is a friction. When you have an opposition, you have a friction there. Saturn transit opposition natal Saturn. Okay, Saturn opposed. See, this is also a personal aspect that I have to think about a little bit. Saturn opposed. Let me see it again. What is it again? Can you read me that? I don't remember.
It was just at the beginning. She was saying, I'm curious to hear anything relevant about Saturn opposition as well as return. But I don't know what's after that, because there's like so many things in between.
Okay. Well, I think she said Saturn, like affecting your own.
Oh, I meant Saturn transit opposition natal Saturn. I don't know. I have no idea. So I'm saying astrology is like, I don't know. I don't know what the words mean.
Let me answer that in the best I can. Saturn opposition. Again, that's such a deep thing. I would say you really need to look at the rest of the chart and what else is traveling with it, right? Because these are Saturn is one planet, right? This is a little bite-sized thing. So you really need to look at what's going on with Mars, what's going on with Pluto, what's going on with your Venus, which is your relationship function. Everything you're talking about, what you're describing about joy, that's a very Venusian, and like painting, singing, being in nature. These are all Venusian or Venus kind of aspects. So that's a little bite-sized thing. But whenever you have anything opposed, like I said, Saturn, it's going to require some discipline. That's it. But again, does it mean it's going to be a bummer? Like I said, I know some people that are incredible artists that have produced art that I love, that is, that I really admire. So it's about how you work it. Like any aspect, it's going to be how you work with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what can you tell us about Sardasati? Do you know what Sardasati is? I'm sure you do.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Sardasati. I guess it's in Vedic astrology. But
I Vedic, me and Vedic are like, I don't, sorry, I do tropical.
I know I'm in the middle of my Sardasati, which somebody told me, and it's like, okay, cool. What does that mean exactly? But it has to do with Saturn, and it has to do with, just like, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Well, I admire that system. I'm just not trained in it. And I have some colleagues that are very, very good at it, at Vedic. So if people need Vedic astrologers, I could tell them who those are, do those referrals. But I'm primarily trained in tropical evolutionary astrology, which is the Jeffrey Wolf Green method, just so for people's information.
And somebody was asking a question about when there's an R beside something.
Retrograde means the planet is retrograde.
Okay.
Anytime you see an RX with a little line through it, or just an R, that means that's retrograde. So like if you run your chart and it's next to the planet, that means, for example, say you run your birth chart and you've got Saturn with an R next to it. It means that Saturn, for example, was retrograde when you were born. That's what that means.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
And also, just to comment on that really quick, that means that the planetary energy is going to be more on an inward level. Anytime you have a retrograde in a natal chart, that means that energy is more inner as opposed to outer. It's going to be a more yin inner application. So I wanted to add that to it. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So in your reading, Melissa's asking, do you go into specific questions in your chart readings or the Saturn readings? Because Melissa was looking at the package this morning, and
I do. If I obviously can't answer a lot of them, but I could certainly do an area of focus, which is a couple of questions. So yes, I can't answer 10 questions, but I could answer probably 2. So yes, definitely.
Awesome. And then after that, all the rest are the wonderful things that bring you joy, which I just love.
Oh, good.
Somebody's asking a personal question. Without the chart in front of us, we can't really answer personal questions. I don't know. So like I'm like, she said, I'm Gemini with moon and rising in Scorpio. Any idea how the Saturn return will affect me? I have no idea.
I would really have to see the chart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whew. So I went through the whole thing now. All right, so there's some people with their hands raised. And again, even if you give us your birthday date and time, we can't look up your chart today on the call.
Let me
Okay.
just explain that really quick. I
Sure.
percolate with the chart. I meditate on the chart. I let the symbols I take them inside. I have a process, and it involves looking at the chart. So, this is my own intuitive application, and it's just how I do it. And not everybody, some people can just read off the top of their heads. And I'm not an academic reader, as some of you guys have probably gotten. I'm very much an intuitive reader. And that's the symbol system I use. So that explains that a little bit more, why I really do need to sit with the chart. Another thing too, just to explain briefly, is I've been writing the cosmic weather, new moon and full moon reports for 17 years. And I started writing those because the moon, I actually communicate with planets. I actually communicate with the bodies of the planets. And I started with the moon. And so whenever there's a moon coming up, like, there obviously is like kind of a surface application, like a new moon, in Aries means this, like we're in the new moon in Aries cycle, right? But then I'll sit with it and I'll really commune with it and see what I'm hearing. That might be another level or layer of what's going on. So that's kind of how that works, and why I can't really do readings in this forum. Yeah. But I encourage everyone to, if they're interested in my work, to schedule a reading.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So that being said, Destiny and Tanya still have their hands raised. So Destiny, you have a question that is not personal. We'll have to see how this goes.
Yes,
Destiny,
I do.
Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah.
Hello.
I have a question that's not personally. Actually, I'm hoping that she could help us do this. Could she help us bring us like out of our head and down into our heart?
We did that yesterday. Remember?
Yeah, I know, but I think I need it again today if it's possible.
And I said, go back and watch that show over and over again as many times as you need to. Because today we're talking mostly about, astrology and just, I don't know what else is going to come up.
I want to add a comment. Alara's meditations are so beautiful and so powerful. I love to participate in those. So I'd say every meditation you do helps us with that connection. But if you specifically, it sounds like there's one where you specifically did that, I'd love to watch that. So yes, just to kind of, reinforce that. Let's all watch that after the show. That sounds like a good thing to watch. So yeah.
But all joking aside, Destiny, for sure, absolutely. It's like I said yesterday, it's a regular process, right? It's a consistent, many times a day process where you have to physically, or not physically, but move that energy from your head down to your heart and ground yourself. I can't even talk.
Got some water there?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to choke her up.
That's okay. So, Irma, is there anything that you can add for Destiny about how she can move her thoughts and consciousness from her head down to her heart?
Or anything that she's picking up that would be helpful to me right now, because today I'm definitely feeling myself shifting, but I'm in this place where I'm like in between this and this, and I'm not sure. I'm like not sure what's going on in this moment.
I would just advise to be quiet and to do grounding exercises, and also to do what Alara's meditation that I haven't seen, and I already know it's great. That's what I would advise.
Okay. Oh yeah, it wasn't mine. It was Emily's yesterday. She was on the show yesterday. She did a process yesterday that seemed to really help Destiny.
Well, that sounds awesome. I want to watch it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
But just stay calm,
Blessings.
Destiny. Okay, that's the biggest thing. Stay calm. Okay, and stay in your body. All right.
Let me add a little thing here. For anybody else that's feeling a little disheveled or discombobulated, we're in very high geomagnetic activity and a very high dose of Aries energy. Okay, this is very, very up here, and it's crackly. So anybody else I know other people are experiencing this. Drink your water, do your grounding, very, very important. If you could, or do the earthing where you put your feet on the grass, the ground, if you can't go outside because it's too cold, you could put them on the ground in your home. But very much this helps with the electromagnetic energies when the energy is really very high. You're right. The activity is very, very high right now. So people, and also people that are primarily earth signs or people with a lot of air and water, they can have not a great time with all this fire energy because they don't have as much of it in their chart. So whatever it is, this is how you kind of look for what I call the antidote, right? And so another antidote for a lot of fire is water. Drink your water. Maybe get in a bathtub, maybe get in the shower, maybe go to a body of water. So whatever it is, if you have a weakness there or a lack in your chart, look at something that's going to balance that out. I think that's good guidance pretty much for anybody, especially if you're in a period of high activity like we are right now.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And
Yeah,
thank
you
you,
Totally
bet.
makes
Laura.
sense. It makes
bet.
total sense what you're feeling, Destiny, but just use
Yeah.
the tools, use the
Yeah.
tools, okay?
Use the tools for sure.
Thank you, ladies. All right, love
You bet.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Love you too. Thank you. All right, Tanya, we're gonna go to Tanya.
Ladies.
Hi.
Hi, Tanya.
Yeah, that was my question about the Scorpio. I will ask general astrological question because it was always bothering me when I discovered that I have 2 placements like moon and rising both in Scorpio. I started thinking, am I more Scorpio than Gemini, or my sun sign is still kind of dominating in my chart? Is it like, because I see Scorpio on me, but it's all probably hidden inside, but it's a lot of Scorpio on me. So what do you think?
That's a lot. You know what? Another little a little guidance tool is your ruling planet of Gemini is Mercury. What's your Mercury in? Do you know?
Yeah.
So do you know what sign your Mercury is in?
Oh, I have it written somewhere, but I don't have it right here.
Well,
no, sorry.
this is detective work for you. Go and find out. Look at what sign your Mercury is in. This is the ruler of your sun.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
there's information there, right? But that does mean, this is another thing. Gemini and Scorpio are 2 of the most intuitive signs of the entire zodiac. You're probably a highly, highly intuitive person, without a doubt. And Gemini is the communicator, which is great because Scorpio energy can go so deep that it can lose the words to even talk about it, right? Because it's one thing to see it, it's another thing to say it. And I have North Node in Gemini in my chart, which is why I'm able to communicate about the things that I see and experience. So that's a beautiful chart. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's very powerful. And so but again, I think I'm just being guided to tell you to look at your Mercury, because Mercury is very important to Geminis because it's your ruling planet. So go have some fun with that and go on a little journey with that. Okay. Because that means that's the subtone of your sun. That means that's the energy that travels alongside with your sun, which I think would be very useful for you to know.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice to talk to you. Sure.
Awesome.
Nice to
Thank you,
talk to you.
Tanya.
Thank you, Lara.
Okay, so 1 second. All right. Okay, where are we? Okay, so yeah, so Melissa says Aries rising and lots of fire and air here. Water and earth help so much when it's so intense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
absolutely.
you. Good comment. Good comment. Absolutely. Good
And
for you.
And if you have grounding crystals, they will help too.
Yes. Get your grounding crystals, get your hematites, your obsidian, right? Anything that gray and black color, your smoky. Oh, look, here she's got her Andaras. Get your smoky quartz is a good one.
Tourmaline, black tourmaline,
black tourmaline, black obsidian. Yes, those are all really, really good for grounding.
And that can help
quartz
you
too.
And quartz too. Yeah. And that can help you right now when everything is so intense, right? So just, we have so many tools around us. We just have to get out of the fear and get out of the emotions and just start using something.
That's a great example of it. This is a great example. I'm a flower essence practitioner and a gem elixir maker. And there's times in the past that I'd be going through something and I have a dear friend that's another elixir maker, and she'd be like, well, did you take your remedy? And I'd be like, no.
we forget.
You just get all in your, so sometimes you need a wonderful person like Laura, or, a friend to go, hey, get that crystal out, or,
Yeah.
do that meditation or that remedy that helps you feel better. Why don't you take that? So yes, you're right. It's a great point.
We all need those. Yeah, we all need those reminders. So, it's like, I mean, to be totally transparent and vulnerable, this week was really tough. I had a cancer scare. And so this week was like, the not knowing and the thinking and then the Googling and like all that stuff, it's like, oh my God, it was hell, I have to say. And I had no sleep, trying to stay doing the shows, staying like calm during the shows, not, getting emotional and whatever. And then, but I found out this morning, no, thank God, no, everything's fine. It's like, and I didn't tell anybody, like my husband, yes. And my husband made me tell my mom. I didn't want to, because, it's like, I didn't want to worry her, but it's like when you have a scare like that, it like flips you upside down and all around, and it's like, what the heck, and
Wow.
And then you go into judgment. It's like, but I'm doing everything right. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. It's like, how could this be? So, and even when I was told, no, absolutely fine, my mind was like, no, I must have cancer. I must, because of blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, your mind can rationalize everything, but so if I have been a little off this week, that's why. It's like, oh my God.
Wow. I'm so grateful that you're fine. What really dawned on me is this is really a Saturnian experience, because I haven't seen your chart, but I know your sun's in Pisces. So you're having the Sun Saturn contact, and Saturn is about what we fear. This is a really beautiful experience because you stayed conscious. I mean, and the thing is, it's not about not being worried, right? Because you're going to be worried. You're a human being.
Yeah.
Right. And also, you said about the judgment coming in, all this stuff is part of it. But, I really think that this is really interesting, because here you faced your fear. You're still here. I'm glad you got this news sooner than later. I'm glad you didn't get this news, the good news, a month later or some awful amount of time you'd have to, my gosh. Well, anyway.
I know, right? I can't even imagine, and like, when I was walking yesterday, because, yesterday I was walking the boys yesterday, and I was talking to God, universe, source, creator, and I was saying, I'm fine if I have cancer. I'm okay with it. That's fine. But, the only reason why I don't want it is because it's going to cause extra stress on my parents and my kids. That's the only reason why I don't want it. Otherwise, I'm fine. I can handle it. And if it's meant to be, it'll be, and, it'll be fine. But I just don't want to stress out my parents and my kids. that was my plea to the universe. I don't want to stress out my parents and my kids.
You were such a Pisces. Look at Alara going, I don't want my troubles to bother anyone else. This is why Pisces, ladies and gentlemen, this is why Pisces is the end of the wheel. Case in point. It's not like, oh, me, why am I going through this? See, I'm in Aries moon, so I would be like, damn it, why is it about me, right? Me. But the Pisces is like, oh, these people that I love, this is going to, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm so grateful you're well, and that's a very powerful example.
Yeah. So. But it made me look at life differently. Just this, 6 days, like looking at everything totally differently. And it's like, holy crap.
So you have she had a Saturn experience that took her to all the way around in 6 days. Yeah. This is how accelerated things are. It didn't take her 6 months or 6 years. It took her 6 days, ladies and gentlemen. So this is what we're talking about. This is about what's the potential of wisdom and learning, right? Yeah. I mean, that's very much a Saturn experience, Laura, because it's frightening.
And there was fear. Of course there was fear, I was like, say to my husband, it's like, oh my God, like what will this mean? And blah, blah, blah. And his answer is like, well, if it comes to that, you have to go home. I was like, yes, I do. I have to go home if it comes to that, no matter what. I was like, I'm going home. So it's like already looking at plans, what's going to change, what's going to happen, like everything. So it's like, and then of course, other stuff is going to change. And I have to put myself first. We all have to put ourselves first. So what's most important for you, right? And so I think this Pluto in Aquarius that's coming in today, or has come in today, is going to make us all look at what is important for us, our transformation.
Yes.
Right?
Great point.
Not about anything else. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with self-esteem or prestige or power or anything, but it's going to come down to you and your evolution. That's what I think. You and your evolution.
That's a really good way to do it. It's perfect. Your evolution, and then as you can, how are you contributing to collective evolution?
Yeah.
Those two things are very, very important. Again, because another important point that I didn't touch on, but I'm guided to share, is Aquarius rules the 11th house, which is the house, which is called the house of friends. And this doesn't necessarily mean people that you're chummy with or hang out with. These are people that you're like, that we're friends here. We all are like-minded. This is a really good example of an 11th house container, is this group, okay? Because there's some commonality that brings us here together. But Aquarius also rules trauma. Uranus rules trauma. We just had a tornado here in Southern California, folks.
Really? Oh,
in
wow.
Montebello, California, yesterday, there was a tornado that ripped the roof off some businesses. In my whole lifetime, I've only heard of one other tornado in Southern California, and it was very minor. This was, unfortunately, people were not injured, but there was a lot of property damage. Cars were destroyed. It was, this isn't Kansas, this is California. So this is like a very strange thing. This is the kind of thing that we're talking about. We also have Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, is in Taurus for a few more years. I've talked about this before on Alara's show. This is why we're having this radical earth change stuff. This is one of the reasons why you're having tornadoes in places you never get them. And atmospheric rivers, we've had this here too. We went from having a drought to having all of this water. So this is a thing too, where we're really going to have to, bond together. It's going to be about I'm seeing a lot of this, and it's beautiful. What do people need? People are on it. They need clothing, they need food, this is the beauty of the internet in that regard, right? What do these people need? Boom, we're on it. The community, the global community is on it to help these people. So this is another high, aspect of Pluto and Aquarius, is helping each other through the technology. But are we going to have some more major earth shift? Oh, absolutely. When Uranus is uncomfortable in Taurus and it rules the earth plane. So what that means is Uranus rules shocks and odd things like tornadoes in California.
Yeah.
So that, but again, we're here to help each other and be here now. So that again is going to counterbalance that.
Absolutely. And, I just want to add a little bit to what I said earlier about, this Pluto in Aquarius for the next 20 years. It's about our personal transformation, but our personal transformation automatically affects the collective.
It does.
That automatically, because so you don't have to do anything for the collective if you don't feel like it. It's not it's not a burden, it's not an obligation, but I feel you do you do have an obligation to yourself.
You do. And another cool thing to do is use the intention. Even if you don't do service work, right? Even if you don't feel called to do that. But if you have that intention, this is something that guidance told me years ago, and it's in my books. If you have the intention to just go, especially around abuse and trauma, there's a lot of people doing very powerful work, transforming abuse and trauma. Again, we're talking about widening the road. Consciously, at the end of all my sessions, I dedicate the work to the benefit of all sentient beings. That's what I do, right? So if you're dedicating your life to the benefit of all sentient beings, it's intentionally, that's a very powerful thing to do. So I wanted to just add that part to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Okay, we will take some more questions in a second, but I just want to quickly talk about the packages. So I'm going to share my screen because I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, oh gosh, where have we been just like talking?
Like we do. It's so much fun. I love being on your show.
And it's like, oh, we got to get back down to business, folks. So, all right. So Irma has two packages. Basically, a Saturn return reading and a natal birth chart reading. that are available for you. And both packages are, they have payment plan available, 2 and 3 part payment plan is available. And if you're an Inner Circle member, please use your 10 or 25% gift code from me. That will also be helpful. So the Saturn return, we've been talking a lot about the Saturn return. But is there anything else that you want to add about it? So Irma will need your birth date, data, time, date, and
Yes.
place,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And as it says on there, if you don't have your time, the houses and the rising will not be as accurate. But to do a Saturn return reading, I don't necessarily need that. I need the place and the date, obviously. Optimally, it's best to have all 3. But I get this question a lot, like, oh, can you not run my chart because I don't have the time? No. I also have gotten pretty good at intuiting whether it's a day chart or a night chart. So I can tune into it and kind of get an idea. It's been interesting to see how my accuracy has grown with this, because then sometimes people will get the time later and I won't be that far off. And another thing to remember is that if you have, like, 4 to 6 hours off, it's not going to be that inaccurate. If it's 12, say it's 12 hours off, like all the way, like halfway through 24 hours, it would be less accurate. But
Right.
the point is, you still can run your chart without the time, if anybody's wondering about that. So it says 5 to 7 days, depending on current queue. I'm getting busy again. I would say, please be patient with me. Sometimes it might be 7 to 10 days. It's kind of up and down. My reading schedule changes all the time. When I wrote this, it was 5 to 7 days, but we'll see. It could be a little longer. So bear with me. Thank you.
Right. And so that's the Saturn return. And then the natal birth chart intuitive astrology reading, again, same idea about having the birth data, the time, date, and place, and then the turnaround is going to be maybe 7 to 10 days. Go ahead.
Could be, yeah. Yeah,
could
it could be, or it could be 5 days. Again, it depends on the week and when the order comes in. Another thing I would add too is for people that have had that are familiar with their chart, because I know there's some wonderfully savvy people on this call. With that, basically, if you have no questions and you just want my interpretation of your chart, I'm happy to do that. And I will interpret your chart, with my intuitive lens. And the way I do that is whatever kind of pops out at me. And again, using evolutionary astrology as the kind of modality that I primarily use. If you've had your chart done and you're familiar with it, then feel free to send me 1 or 2 questions, to see how that pertains to your chart. Okay. And I'm happy to do that. But for people that are new and have maybe not had had their chart read, or haven't had it read in, say, 10 years. I have people that go, oh, I had my chart read 20 years ago. Well, that's not going to be very fresh. So it's good to get another reading. And this is the kind of thing too, that with the blueprint, there's so many, there could be 10 people that look at 10 astrologers that look at your chart, and we're all going to, maybe pinpoint on something different, because there's so much vast information in a birth chart. I try to really tune in onto what speaks to me the loudest and the clearest, and what what spirit wants you to hear about your chart the most.
Yeah.
So that being said, it's not like, oh, it's not a one and done, when it comes to a natal chart reading, because there's so much there. So I just thought I'd put that out there too.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. I didn't know that as well. And so some wonderful testimonials. Please check them out. And again, like I said, package A and package B, both packages, 2 and 3 part payment plans are available, as well as you can use your 10 or 25% gift code. So please do take advantage of that. I just found out, after like so many years, my birth time, we were always estimating, because my parents didn't know. They said, oh, somewhere between 2 and 3 a.m. And then 12 and 3 a.m. Then finally narrowed down to 2:44 a.m., with help of an astrologer. Now I just found out, because I have a written thing, it's 5:45 a.m. It's like, oh my God. First, the date was wrong by 1 day. Then the time was wrong all these years. Now I finally got 5:45 a.m. March 8th.
Well, you know what, to add on that, to go between 12 and 5:45 is within 6 hours.
Yeah.
Right. So it still would be primarily accurate. Again, if it was 8 hours, 10 or 12 hours, then you're getting farther away. Well, I'm glad you got that. That's good.
I know,
That's
right?
good to have. Yeah, that is. I know. I have
like,
people
oh
like
my
that
goodness.
too. That's like, Mom said this and this said that. And No, I'm glad you have that. That's important. Yeah. I mean,
But
I've
it's like
gotten,
I'm 56 now. I finally got my correct birth time. I was 20, I think, when I found out. Oh no, my birthday is not March 7th; it's March 8th. So I was like, oh my god, okay, good to know. No wonder the astrology readings and the horoscope, whatever, never made sense.
but you know what? What's interesting too is, like, for example, Tibetans in Tibet. I don't know if they've changed that now, but I've read a lot of Tibetans, and they don't record the time. They haven't
Ah,
recorded the time in the past. So this is
okay.
part of the reason I've gotten pretty good at kind of, putting on my Spidey sensitive hat when I look at the chart. And again, if is it a day or night chart and that kind of thing. So there are people born in places in the world that the time is not given. And again,
Mhm.
that's not going to be a deterrent to getting your chart read. So again,
Yeah.
I get that question a lot. I wanted to be real clear on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny because I just thought
That
I'd
is
share
funny.
that funny
It's
joke.
odd. It's very odd. It's like, oh yay, we finally got it figured out.
It's like, oh my God, my parents could not look at that piece of paper for all these years. Like, oh my God. And then I had to, and it's in Hindi. And then I sent it to an Indian astrologer. Said, can you just looking at this, figure out what time? And then he told me 5:45 a.m. And then my mom said, oh yeah, I think it's 5:45 a.m. I was looking at it. It's like, okay.
Like, thanks, Mom. Okay.
Exactly. All
Someone
right.
said
There's a
Saturn
question.
return happens at 56. It really depends, because I'm 58 and I'm having mine now.
I'm
So
56, Madalena. So,
you have to look and see where it is. And Ilara, if you want to know when yours is, feel free to send me your chart, and I'd be happy to tell you that.
what chart?
Okay.
All I have is my friggin' birth date and time
I'll
now.
run it. I can run it. You know where you're born. You have the date.
I know
You
where
have
I
the
was.
time, so we
I
can
know
run
where
it.
I was born. That is guaranteed, unless they've suddenly changed that on me too. But yes.
We can run it. Yeah. So just to clarify, if you have Saturn and Pisces, anybody on this call, at sometime between now and the next 2.5 years, you will be having your Saturn return. It is an orb, which means you're going to be feeling the effects of it right now. But like if it's later, yeah, it's how long does the Saturn return last? Good question. The actual where it's direct, it moves fairly slowly. I'm trying to think if it would just be a couple of weeks, because it's going to be separating, right? Like mine's at 2 degrees, and I don't know exactly how many. I'm thinking we have to do the math on 0 to 30 degrees in 2.5 years. So that's going to be pretty slow moving.
Yeah.
So you would be feeling it for, several months. As far as the direct hit of it, it would be several months. But if you have Saturn and Pisces, in the next 2.5 years, you will be in the orb of that. So just to clarify that. So we should, let's share about my sale. Let's share about this guy.
Yes. Yes. Oh, we love crystals. Oh my God. And crystal skulls. We love crystal skulls. I wish I had more of them here, but they're over there. But so I don't want to get on my chair. But yes, go ahead. Share away.
Well, I'm having I have Bright Star Emporium. Laura's been a wonderful friend and customer, and her crew. I've had Bright Star Emporium at Facebook for several years now, since 2018. And we sell all kinds of items, but we love the crystal skulls. Here's an example of one of the beautiful Aura Quartz skulls that's going to be in the sale. And the sale is going to start tomorrow and go through Saturday. So anybody that's on Facebook, look us up, Bright Star Emporium. I don't know if you could link that somewhere, Alara, the group link, or we'll get it to people. There's that. And then also it's at Bright Star Emporium at Instagram. We also have a store there, just the word Bright Star Emporium, one word, at Instagram. So we have items there also. But Facebook people, it's all about Bright Star Emporium Facebook group. Another thing you're going to want to get on, we have way too much inventory. This is another thing. It's like, I'd like to be able to get in my office and like not trip. I have so much stuff. Been going to Sedona. A lot of the crystals are sourced in Sedona. Oh, thank you so much for that. So I'm going to be doing auctions. They're going to be starting in June. We're having Zoom auctions. We're going to have them all summer, June, July, and August. My prices are always well below retail, like anywhere from 20 to 50% below retail, always on every item. But when we get into the auctions, they're going to be very good prices. They're going to be in the 40 and 50% off retail, pretty much every item. So if you're interested in that, that'll be in my newsletter, irmakaye.com. And we'll be talking more about that in group, but that's definitely going to be, especially people that have stores, that have their own retail business. If you just want to, get some more in your own collection for a good price. We have ethically obtained crystals. A lot of them are activated at sacred spots and they're below retail. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yes,
So thank you.
I have loved ordering my crystals from Irma because they are good quality, and the energies from all of them. I mean, I have so many Andara, that's crazy, that I got from Irma, and that beautiful Ankh. Unfortunately, my husband broke it. Last year when he had his psychotic episode, he anyway, it doesn't matter.
Did you glue it back together?
No, we still have the two pieces, but it's like
Well, when things break, you can kind of tune in. That's a good point, because people ask me this too. You can tune in and go, does this want to be two pieces or does it want to be back together? Because sometimes the crystal's perfectly happy being two pieces, and it can be in two different places in the house, right? Because that's happened with mine. There's other crystals that I've had that have cleaved or broke, and they wanted to be back together, and you can get a very special kind of, good crystal glue, not your garden variety stuff at the grocery store. You get some very good high quality glue, and you glue it back together and you can't even see really. There might be a little mark there. So that's the thing. I would recommend, tune into the crystal and see, does it want to be two pieces? Some crystals want to be two pieces, and sometimes they want to be shared. Yeah, which is interesting. Sometimes it'll break in half and someone will go, oh, I know who's supposed to have the other part of this, almost like a little twinning kind of a thing. So that happens too. But if you do, folks, you can repair them. So just
yeah. And we used to have that glue when we were in Canada, but I will look and see if I can find it here as well. But so yes, I love crystals. If you were to see my place, you would see crystals everywhere. And the thing is, even with crystals, even with them being everywhere, you still have to use them, work with them as well, right? Give attention to them as well, right? So but yeah, they're great. I hate the word tools, but they're great friends to work with.
Well, you know what else they are? They're facilitators, right? They're tools and facilitators, and especially crystal skulls and Daras. These are going to be great things to work with, especially through this upcoming eclipse portal. So that's going to be whenever you get Scorpio energy, Taurus and Scorpio energy, it loves crystals, right? Taurus is very much earth energy. And then you've got Scorpio, which is this very powerful plutonic transformational energy. So yeah, bust out your crystals in the eclipse portal upcoming. Definitely do that. Okay.
Absolutely. And then of course, check out the sale at Bright Star Emporium. Not just like this one sale, but keep checking.
Yeah, we have sales. We have sales all the time.
All the time. Exactly.
We have them every month. Just to talk a little bit about that, we have the wonderful sale for Mother's Day every year that we offer really beautiful jewelry and gifts for you, for your own mother, and also maybe for your biological physical mother. You might want to buy her one. That's going to be in May. And we also are going to have an Easter sale. We have some really beautiful egg-shaped crystals for Easter. So we are, and we have rabbits, of course, for Year of the Rabbit. So we always have fun sales like pretty much every month. So check that out. Thank you.
Yes. Good. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Any other last words of wisdom from yourself or from the crystals? Who wants to share that last bit of wisdom?
You mean me or you?
I meant you or the crystals that you are working with.
Or the crystals. Actually, what's interesting about skulls, what I will share about this is, the skulls are part of a deeper network, right? They're part of the crystalline kingdom and the network. And it's interesting because it seems like the communication, it's always there, but there's times when it's like louder, right? And then it kind of, maybe goes down, gets a little bit more mellow again. I just feel like there's going to be, and it's interesting because when we go back to those Sabian symbols, we're talking about new networks, new communication. That's why that very much ties into that. If you have favorite crystals that speak to you, definitely sit with them in this portal because they're going to be chatty. They're going to be chattier than usual. I'm pretty much positive about that. So I really appreciate everybody on the call today. I love being on your show, Laura. It's so much fun.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you everybody for all your questions, comments, feedback, all the ways that you experience joy. That's awesome. And thank you for your blessings as well. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. Definitely work with Irma if you can. You will not regret it for sure. I mean, like, there's so much information. I didn't realize how much information is available in these charts. So there's so much information available for you. And it can help you to navigate the next few years, what's happening, what's
This
coming
is
up,
another
right?
thing I just want to add too, even if you're not having a Saturn return, maybe you have one coming up. Also, I have people that had Saturn in Aquarius. So their Saturn return is just ended. And I've done Saturn return. I'm glad I remembered this. So it can be like, you know, what guidance can I get about what I just experienced for the last 2.5 years, right? So it's like, you really can kind of get this at any point on it. Or if yours is coming up, say you have Saturn in Aries and you want to know what's coming up, we can look at that too. Okay. But obviously I'm focusing on Pisces because that's where we are. But just know wherever you are on the timeline, you can take a look at it astrologically. So
Awesome.
thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you,
Namaste.
thank you, thank you. Until next time, may you continue to be blessed with an abundance of joy, peace, love, happiness, prosperity, and radiant health. Sending you all much love and blessings always. Bye for now.